name's Melissa Lineberry, and I'm the host of Stupid Politics. This is part 2 of Tim Treacy's, he has been incarcerated, and we have his mother here, Claudia Treacy, who's been telling us about his story. I'm going to recap, but first I want my panel to introduce himself. I'm going to recap real quick, and then we got a lot more information to cover.
Claudia Treacy.
I'm Michael Davis.
I'm Rachel Grubb.
Okay, on the first show we talked a little bit about what had started. Tim worked for a company. The gentleman of the company asked him to do some things that Tim did not feel comfortable with for a different kind of job, not a real 9-to-5 job. Tim said no, and then the trouble began. He had a guy come into his home and put a gun against his head. He had 9 cops a few months later show up and ransack him in his home and take his money, and then the arrest started. But the one thing we did leave out is before the arrest started, after they had, the police had kept aggravating Tim and picking up for little things, they asked him to be an informant. He accepted one time.
Well, he didn't know what he was being this informant. He thought he was going to work to help the cops.
So he thought this would help him get out of trouble maybe and leave them alone and help them.
He was proud. I'm going to help the cops catch the crooks.
He did it one time, almost got killed,
right.
Said never again.
Right.
Then the arrest started happening.
Yeah.
So after he refused to be an informant, whether they're tied, this is the timeline. So then he had the first D.U.I, where he was asleep on your couch, went to pick up some friends, a cop pulls him over, says that he's drunk. Then we have, how many more?
I don't know. I really cannot tell you because I've only been interested in concerning myself with why he's in jail.
Okay, but he had like maybe 3 more?
Yeah, he was just telling me he's always getting picked up by the cops.
Okay, so he had a lot of DWIs.
Yeah.
And they kept putting him in jail. And one of...
Not always. They let him go, walk home.
Okay, and Tim had asked for a trial, correct? And because he's saying he's not guilty of any of these DWIs.
Right. I mean, he said, well, he didn't really want it because he wanted it and didn't want it because he was afraid that with all this crooked stuff, maybe they got a particular jury picked. Because there's something strange going on. I've gone to a jury trial. I've watched it with this judge. And this man did nothing, absolutely nothing. And he got convicted. Nobody would have convicted him. We're saying, oh, he's a home free. Guilty.
But Tim wanted a trial, and one of the things you had sent me a timeline, they keep continuing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So every time Tim goes into court, after, when you get picked up, if you've ever been picked up by the police and you go to jail or you're released, you get a court date.
Right.
And Tim...
He had 40-some pre-trial conferences.
47?
40-some. We lost count.
And they keep continuing it.
Yeah, like he was supposed to go have a trial Thursday, this week, and the 23rd. And they stopped it for some reason.
And he's still currently in jail.
Yeah.
And then, so after these, he finally got out, after the DWIs, he finally got out and was put on a electronic monitor. And one of the things that I found really interesting, I want to talk about, is he was required to give a urine sample whenever they requested it.
Well, from the time that they let him out, the week before Thanksgiving, until sometime after January, February 2009, they did not ask him for anything. Now, all of a sudden, one day, but that's too long a story, because they were going to break in our house. So
but they could, because he had gotten on, because he got on probably the monitor to get out of jail. That was one of the requirements.
Right.
But they could have him do a urine test whenever they asked.
Before he was on a scram bracelet. Okay, if you're drunk, don't you think they should do that rather than he not have a problem with marijuana?
Well, and that was even if he had a problem. One of the things, this last charge, so he's been picked up in the last few years for DWIs. He cannot get a trial. They keep continuing it. So then on 2/17/09, this is from the Marion County Superior Court Criminal Division, he submitted a urine drug screen that tested positive for THC. And if you're not familiar, THC is marijuana.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting to me on that one, so back to Dennis, we think your son's just been in a lot of trouble and you just don't know what you're talking about. On 2/17/09, he tests positive for THC marijuana. And one of the things you guys, after you had noticed that...
At the request of the probation officer. She suggested this.
Okay, you started getting independent testing.
Right. She said something's wrong. I've never seen a case like this.
So on 2/19/09, you got a test done, and everything came back negative, including marijuana.
Right.
On 3/13/09, everything came back negative, and 3/21, oh, I'm sorry, I want to see when they're collected. I'm doing the wrong date. 3/20/09, it was all negative, 3/12/09, and 2/18. So, according to this, on 2/17/09, February 17th, he had a drug screen that tested positive for THC, marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
But according to this, on 2/18, the next day, he was found negative of all drugs, including marijuana.
Yeah.